You have been lied to your entire life. The story of Medusa that you know is nothing but a Roman rewrite. Have you ever cried for Medusa? The beautiful priestess, defiled by Poseidon, then cursed by a jealous goddess. A victim, punished for someone else's crime. It is a beautiful story. It is also, almost entirely, fake. That version did not exist for the first 500 years of her myth. Someone invented it later. And tonight, we go back to where the lie began. Let's travel back to ancient Greece. The 8th century BC. A world without Rome. Without emperors. Without Ovid. A blind poet named Hesiod is singing by firelight. He is reciting the very first written account of Medusa. A poem called the Theogony, the origin of the gods themselves. And his version is nothing like what you imagine. There is no priestess in this story. There is no temple. No assault. No curse from Athena. In Hesiod's version, Medusa was never human at all. She was born a monster. Not transformed. Not cursed. Simply born that way. Medusa had two sisters, Stheno and Euryale. Together, they were called the Gorgons. Their parents were ancient sea gods, ruling before the Olympians existed. Forces and Ceto, primordial and terrifying. Beings older than Zeus. Older than Olympus itself. The Gorgon sisters had golden wings that gleamed like fire. They had tusks like wild boars, sharp and monstrous. Bronze hands, strong enough to tear flesh apart. And their hair was a writhing nest of living serpents. They were never beautiful. Not for a single day. They were monsters from the moment they were born. They lived at the edge of the known world, past the ocean's boundary. Near the Garden of the Hesperides, where no mortal dared travel. A land of shadows, silence, and ancient dread. But here is where the story becomes truly dark. Stheno and Euryale were immortal. They could never die. Medusa was the only mortal one among them. A monster, yes, but a monster who could bleed. A monster who could be killed. That single detail sealed her fate forever. Perseus did not hunt Medusa because she sinned. He hunted her because she was the only Gorgon he could actually kill. A king named Polydex demanded her head as an impossible task. He hoped Perseus would die trying, and never return. The gods gave Perseus tools to survive the hunt. A polished shield, a curved blade, winged sandals. He approached the sleeping Gorgons, careful never to look directly at them. Using his shield as a mirror, he found Medusa among her sisters. With a single strike, he severed her head while she slept. There was no justice in this story. No punishment. No crime. There was only a monster, born unlucky enough to be killable. In this version, Medusa is not a victim of injustice. She is simply a creature of pure, ancient horror. A being that exists purely to terrify. No sympathy required. No tragedy needed. Just a monster, and a hero brave enough to face her. For the ancient Greeks, this was simply how the world worked. Monsters existed at the edges of civilization, waiting to be conquered. Heroes proved their worth by facing them, and surviving. There was no moral complexity intended in this tale. Only raw, primal fear, wrapped in poetry. So where did the sad, sympathetic Medusa come from? Let's jump forward 700 years into the future. We are no longer in Greece. We are in Rome. An empire built on conquest, control, and absolute obedience. A poet named Ovid is writing his masterpiece. The Metamorphoses, a book that would outlive an empire. And in this book, Ovid completely rewrites Medusa's story. In his version, Medusa was once stunningly beautiful. Her hair, in particular, was her most admired feature. Suitors traveled from distant lands, hoping to win her heart. She served as a priestess in Athena's own sacred temple. A life of devotion, discipline, and quiet purity. Then Poseidon saw her, and desired her. Inside that very temple, he assaulted her. A sacred space, defiled by a god who feared no consequence. Athena's fury was absolute, but not aimed where it belonged. She could not punish Poseidon. He was too powerful. An equal among gods, untouchable by another god's anger. So she punished the victim standing in front of her instead. Medusa's beautiful hair became writhing, venomous snakes. Her gaze alone could turn any living creature to stone. She did not choose this curse. She never sinned at all. In Ovid's version, Medusa is entirely, completely innocent. Exiled from her temple, feared by everyone she once served. Alone, monstrous, and utterly blameless. So why did Ovid change everything? Why turn a pure monster into a tragic victim? Because Ovid despised those in absolute power. He lived under Emperor Augustus, a ruler obsessed with control. A man who rewrote Roman law to punish moral disobedience. Ovid was eventually exiled by that very emperor. Banished, far from Rome, for the rest of his life. The official reason was vague. The real reason remains debated. Some believe he witnessed something the emperor could not forgive. Throughout Metamorphoses, gods repeatedly abuse their absolute power. And mortals always pay the price for it. Medusa became his sharpest weapon of all. A perfect symbol of how power crushes the powerless. Poseidon commits the crime. Medusa receives the punishment. This was not just mythology to Ovid. This was rebellion. A quiet, poetic revolt against tyranny itself. Hidden inside a story about monsters, so it could survive. A message the emperor could never openly punish him for. And it worked exactly as he intended. This version spread across the Roman world, unstoppable. It became the version painted by artists for centuries. Caravaggio painted her severed head, frozen mid-scream. Not as a monster's trophy, but as a portrait of suffering. The version sculpted, retold, and eventually, believed as truth. Hesid's original monster was slowly forgotten by history. Buried beneath centuries of sympathy and Roman sorrow. So now, you know both truths. The original Greek Medusa, a pure creature of horror. Born a monster, killed simply because she could be. And the Roman Medusa, an innocent victim of divine cruelty. Punished for a crime she never committed. Both versions are extraordinary, in completely different ways. The Greek version gives us horror in its rawest form. No metaphor. No justice. Just fear, ancient and absolute. A world where monsters simply existed, and heroes simply fought them. The Roman version gives us something far more human. A story about power, injustice, and the innocent who suffer. A mirror held up to every empire that ever abused its people. Perhaps that is why Medusa still fascinates us today. She is never just one story. She is two, colliding forever. A monster born from darkness. And a victim born from injustice. 2,000 years later, we still cannot decide which one is true. Maybe because both of them are true, in their own way. Myths were never meant to have only one meaning. They shift, depending on who is telling them, and why. So here is the question I leave you with tonight. Which Medusa do you believe in? The ancient monster, feared for simply existing? Or the tragic woman, punished for a crime that wasn't hers? Tell me in the comments below. And if this hidden truth surprised you tonight, there are far darker secrets still waiting, buried in these old myths.